So Trevor says, first, let's get this out of the way. I'm not suicidal. I used to work in the military and I loved every day of it, but now I feel completely lost and I don't know what's next. People tell me you're not the military, you need to move on. But in the Army, I had a purpose. I had a mission. I had soldiers to look after. We worked together and made shit happen. I retired from military in 2018, and I just want to know, what is the purpose of all this? My kids have all moved out. I'm not finding much joy in it, and I've been trying to get back into hobbies I love, like reading, watching YouTube videos on bushcraft. I don't know what bushcraft
What's
is.
bushcraft? Tell us in the comments what bushcraft is.
Okay, all right. Camping and volunteering. None of it interests me anymore. What should I do to fix it? So this is a really good example of, first of all, Trevor, like, I hear you. And thank you so much for serving our country. Anytime we get to work with veterans or members of the military and active service, like, it's such an incredible honor because your purpose in that season was very clearly defined and getting connected to that mission. Like we say all the time, purpose personalizes the mission. And you felt that when you were part of the Army.
And what's interesting about the military, because I think by and large, people who have not served in the military and maybe have a low growth mindset can't even appreciate what he had to do to serve.
Totally.
What he had to sacrifice. And they can't appreciate that level of responsibility, mission, and purpose.
Yeah.
There's something
and
really,
community, too.
No, and totally the community side, because there's the within the military, and I've not served in the military, you've not served in the military, but we have a lot of military friends. There is more availability in the military for trench moments where real camaraderie is created. Like, you and I have kind of lived by this phrase with respect to our team. If you're gonna be successful together, you have to suffer together.
Right.
I think the people of the U.S. military understand that more than anybody else.
For sure.
We can be successful together, but we also have to suffer together. It's not just be successful together.
But I think also too that they understand the core foundation of conviction, which they've determined that it's worth it.
Totally. I mean, it comes back. You and I can't stand the word passion as it's traditionally understood, defined as a barely controllable emotion. It's awful. It's a dumb word. Passion is not a good decision-making tool at all, period, full stop.
Yeah, anytime someone says, I want to follow my passion, we want to like blow dart them.
Yeah.
We're like, please stop talking
It's like,
right now.
Please stop talking. But the other word that's not very helpful is motivation, because motivation is defined as a general reason for doing something, which, as a word that we use to describe a multi-billion-dollar industry, its definition is really underwhelming. Motivation is also tremendously emotional. It's up one day, down the next. If you've ever led a sales team, you know that they kind of live and die on motivation. They're successful one day and they sandbag the next. Motivation and passion, and if you take a look at the top 1% of people or 0.1% of people, passion and motivation is not what you would describe them as.
Yeah.
That you would use the word conviction. They would crawl over broken glass to achieve the thing. Like that's what they are. The military produces conviction because if you were to like scientifically examine boot camp or listen to somebody describe boot camp to you that's been through it, what your takeaways would be twofold. Clarity and pain existed at the same time. Clarity and pain equals conviction. Conviction is the unreasonable certainty that what I am doing is right and worth it. Unreasonable to the reasonable, certain in the face of uncertainty, rightly aligned with my purpose and my mission, and worth the sacrifice. That right there sums up sums up military. That sums up boot camp.
Yep.
The boot camp puts you in an experience where you're giving clarity on. Well, you don't really have a choice, but you're giving clarity on who you're going to be, who you are, what your target is, and the steps to achieve it. And it's uncoped, uncomfortable, and undelayed.
Yeah, and I think we see this a lot because we do work with a lot of veterans who are trying to figure out what's next because they are moving from an environment that is incredibly structured, that the purpose is defined for them, and there's camaraderie and community. And I think the biggest thing for Trevor, what Trevor needs to do is find out his who. Like each one of us have a who that we're drawn to. And typically it's us maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Like you hear a lot of people talk about why, like start with why, what's your why, all that. And why actually isn't that helpful.
It's not.
It's actually who is the question you want to focus on, is who are you becoming and who are you supposed to help?
Yeah.
So for Trevor, you have to find out who is it that you're super excited about helping. So maybe it's someone who you see yourself in. Maybe it's a struggle that they're experiencing that you yourself have overcome. Maybe the who is your kids. Like they're not in the house anymore, but that doesn't mean that you still can't be there for them in some kind of incredible capacity. Like what wisdom and direction have you been able to find for yourself that you can then repackage and repurpose for someone else? That's where the motivation is going to come from that we're talking about. And that's where the clarity on your purpose is going to come from as well.
And what's unique for Trevor is like, you have been given a level of perspective, wisdom, discipline, etc., that the majority, the 99% of people do not have. You have a set of skills. Yeah. You have a set of perspectives. You have a set of all of these amazing gifts that you can take and give to other people in a new context. In a new context, a new audience. And the goal here is to identify the best of what you have and to give it to somebody. So finding a new place where you can live a life of service, if you will.
Veterans have an unfair advantage when it comes to finding their purpose because they have a perspective that most people don't even know what that feels like, is to have that sense of clarity of vision and direction. Most people go through life ping-ponging around thinking, is this what I'm supposed to do? Is that what I'm supposed to do? The military does not give you any space to change your mind. They will define it for you. It will be assigned to you.
I just don't feel up to this today. And the military is like, well,
yeah.
Sorry.
No one asked.
Yeah.
No one asked. But what we've seen with veterans who have left military service and are now in a new era, they went from having everything be so incredibly structured to then having to figure things out on their own. And like that right there is an incredible gift.
Yeah.
Because you now have the ability to translate discipline from one season to the next. Mm-hmm. And again, I think the biggest thing that Trevor's got to do is just find his who. Like, that's why you see so many veterans leaving the military and starting their own businesses or working inside of an organization and creating community groups and like in companies, they call them employee resource groups. Like, I've seen that with so many veterans that they have been able to take and translate the discipline that they received in one arena in life and translate it to a completely different arena and be incredibly successful. I think the biggest thing Trevor has to do is find out what problems he wants to solve too. So like the first question is, you got to find your who. The second question is, what problems are you going to solve? What problems were you drawn to solve when you were in the Army? Were they problems of personnel? Did you really love getting in there and making sure that there was reconciliation, conversation, community? Or are there problems of systems or sequences that you're like, oh my gosh, I really loved it when there was a problem and I had to use like these analytical skills to like figure stuff out on my own? Or was it something else? Like, they're getting really clear on the types of problems that you like solving, Trevor, is really going to help you direct your effort towards things. Because right now, Trevor's looking at hobbies and he's like, I'm into all of these things and bushcraft, whatever the crap that is. Like, there are all these things that he loves to do, but it's not bringing him joy anymore. And I see that all the time. People think hobbies are going to bring you happiness and they don't.
Yeah, because hobbies still aren't about living a life of contribution to others.
Right. Yeah, and hobbies are important.
They're 100%.
I think.
They're not. you have opinions about hobbies.
I don't have a hobby. Maybe that's why. So, this is my hobby. Welcome to it.
Yeah, it's like you hear people talk about hobbies like it's something that they're required to have.
That's true.
But you don't have to have hobbies.
You don't have to.
Hobbies are not required to live a healthy life.
You actually don't have to do anything.
That's
the good news.
Anything.
No, but that's true. But I think for Trevor, like, he has these hobbies, which are great, but he's actually putting too much pressure on his hobbies to fulfill him.
Yep.
Your hobbies don't fulfill you. Your hobbies just are like the decorations of life. It just like creates a little bit more interest and excitement, but really it's just activity at the end of the day.
So you go to this idea that a lot of people think that they have to have hobbies, like hobbies are some kind of requirement that they have to have them. That's not it. That is not the key to living a fulfilled life. If it gives you like energy or rest, great. But that's not the key to living a fulfilled life. The key to living a fulfilled life is to live your life in contribution to another life. So take the best of what you have, your purpose, the best of what you have, and give it to somebody else to help transform their life or their outcome, and be close enough to get the feedback loop. So when I work with CEOs, I work with CEOs all the time that started their companies. They were the founder, and now they're the CEO, and it's much, much larger. And the thing they originally loved, they now hate. They can't stand it anymore. And it's because distance does not equal fulfillment. Proximity equals fulfillment. You actually have to be close to the outcome that your life produces, because you receive fulfillment through gratitude, giving, and growth. The gratitude you get back from people that you help. Giving, and you don't necessarily get the gratitude, but you get to watch the transformation that your life played a part in providing. And then finally, your own personal growth. But it's really hard to experience fulfillment when there's distance. I see that with CEOs all the time. But kind of using the hobby thing as an analogy, if your hobbies keep you isolated, if your hobbies keep you on your own, right? Maybe they're restful to you, but they're not going to contribute to your fulfillment.
Well, hobbies by definition are things that you like doing. And so it's like, I like doing this one week. Like I like painting, or I like running, or I like whatever it is that people do for hobbies. It's like, or I like pickleball. It's like, that's nice. And I think
don't get me started on pickleball.
I think that was actually a good point though, that hobbies should create rest, relaxation, and recharge. Like that's what your hobby should do. But if it's not doing that, if it is pulling away from you, then why are you spending so much time and effort on something? Like you should not be living for your hobbies. You meet some of these people, I know we're going after pickleball, but like they're like so stinking obsessed. And then you're like, bro, if it's not hitting one of those 3 R's, like, why are you doing it?
It's interesting. You ever hear people talk about like the shame they have over not spending more time with a hobby?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. They're like, oh, I should be playing more golf. Like, oh man.
So it was for rest and relaxation. Now that you're not doing it with consistency, now you're like, I really should. I'm like, and now your hobby that you said you wanted to do is like this source of the opposite
it's
of
one
rest,
more
relaxation.
thing now that you're letting down.
Yeah.